Hi there, I'm Hannah Bailey. I'm the curator of birds here at the Houston Zoo, and I want to talk to y'all today about how we're saving species in the wild by introducing you to the Guam Rail that lives at Natural Encounters. We do a lot of work in the Pacific for saving birds, and the Guam Rail is one of the examples of birds that we have helped save this and other similar species from threats in Pacific Islands, and have worked closely with some non-governmental organizations and nonprofits to do field work in that area to save species in the wild. So in a few minutes, we'll be introducing you to our Guam Rail, Hurao, and he will come out and show y'all how recycling is important and how cleaning waterways really helps save the environment. So he should be out any minute now. The work that we do in the Pacific Islands is centered around Guam and the Marianas Islands, which are islands nearby. And the biggest threat on the Marianas Islands right now is a species of snake that was introduced after World War II called the brown tree snake. And the brown tree snake has decimated all of the bird species of Guam. So the work at the Houston Zoo we're doing is helping protect Guam rails, as well as species on nearby islands of Saipan and Tinian, where we protect those birds from the invasion of the snakes that happened on Guam. So our Guam Rail has come out now, and I'll let the Natural Encounters team introduce you.
Hi guys, my name is Tessa. I'm one of the keepers here at Natural Encounters, and I am also one of Hurao's trainers, along with Sydney here, who's doing one of the main training, and Amanda. So Hurao is around 2.5 years old, and his lifespan is going to be up to around 9 to 10 years old in our human care here. And he came to us about a year ago from the National Zoo in Virginia. And this little activity you guys see him doing, he loves to clean his water bowl. So Hurao really likes keeping the waterways clean. So you might notice some of our items in there are little bits of plastic, such as straws. So straws, it's really easy for them to accidentally end up in waterways. So Hurao likes to help out by taking those out of the water there. And one of the ways that you guys at home can help reduce the amount of straws and plastic that end up in the waterways is to actually use reusable items such as metal straws or silicone straws. Let me know if you guys have any questions about Hurao specifically. He's a very smart bird, and I really enjoy being one of his trainers. Food in the water, such as snails or other invertebrates. So it is very fun and encouraging natural behavior for him to be pulling things out of water. You might hear that little whistle, so you also may notice that our keepers have their masks down a bit. It is pretty much impossible to use a whistle and wear a mask at the same time. Go ahead and try it at home. Lewis asks, are they endangered? Yes, they are critically endangered currently, and as Hannah might want to chime in on that, they are no longer in their native land of Guam, but have been reintroduced to surrounding islands. Eve asks, what is his lifespan? So Hurao is 2.5 years old, and he will live to be 9 to 10, whereas females live a little bit shorter, around 5 to 6 years old. And the food that you see him getting is a variety. So there's some bird pellet to make sure lizards, so frozen anoles are also part of his diet. So we're going to move on. So Hurao's going to go back into his little crate and go back behind the scenes. So his home is behind the scenes because he is an ambassador animal. So he lives behind the scenes, not on an exhibit, so you wouldn't normally see him, but you would get to see him during keeper chats, which is an example, like you saw there, where he's doing fun activities and we can talk to you guys about him, his species, saving that species in the wild, and plastic recycling, so all kinds of fun things. So we're going to move on over here to our rainforest exhibit now, also still in the Natural Encounters building. And Sydney will be talking to you a bit about our golden lion tamarins and saving their species in the wild as well. They're going to have all kinds of fun treats out there, so hopefully you guys will get a nice close-up look and see them. And if you guys have any more questions about Hurao, as his trainer, I'm happy to answer them.
Sydney to Ashley, you can put the food out. Well, hi, my name is Sydney and I'm one of the keepers in the Natural Encounters building, and I am standing in front of our rainforest exhibit, which houses a few different primate species. Difficulties. Okay. One of my favorite primate species in the world is the golden lion tamarin. And like the Guam Rail, they have a really awesome conservation story. In the 1970s, there were less than 200 of these guys in the wild. Now, they're found in Brazil in a very, very small part of the Atlantic coastal forest. And as I said, in 1970, there were less than 200 of them, which is not a lot. They were critically endangered. So a bunch of zoos here in the United States got together along with the Brazilian government and started breeding these guys here in the United States in zoos just like here at the Houston Zoo. Once our numbers were really good here in zoos, a few of them were sent down to Brazil and they were released into the wild. And now there are over 3,000 golden lion tamarins in the wild, which is a huge jump from just 50 years ago, which is pretty amazing. Now here at the Houston Zoo, we have two awesome golden lion tamarins. One of our keepers is going to be coming out here with a couple of yummy goodies for them. So obviously their name comes from their beautiful color. They have that bright orange coat, which actually does camouflage fairly well in their rainforest habitat. They are about 2 pounds, and we have two of them here at the Houston Zoo. We have Juno, who is 15 years old. He is our boy who's actually born here at the zoo. And we have his wife, Kawari, who is 12 years old. Now, Sherry asks, how many babies can they have? That's actually one of my favorite facts about golden lion tamarins and most tamarin species, is that they usually have twins. So the twins are born and they are very, very small. They're about the size of a small wiffle ball. And from the very beginning of their lives, they are going to hold on to their mom. And she's going to go around the forest looking for food, and they're going to hold on tight. After a week or two, they're big enough for dad to start hanging out with them. They'll get transferred to dad every once in a while, and then mom will take them back in order to nurse. Now, they're very tight-knit family groups, so once those twins grow up, they'll actually stay with their parents and help raise the next generations. It's really important for this type of monkey to actually learn how to be parents by raising their siblings and helping their parents grow. Now, once they've had a couple of years of experience learning how to raise their family, they can go off and raise their own family. Now, here at the Houston Zoo, our two golden lion tamarins share an exhibit with two very, very small monkeys, and these are our two pygmy marmosets, another type of small monkey from South America. Now, our golden lion tamarins are getting a very delightful treat today. They're getting a couple pieces of hanging fruit, which is really fun for them to rip off pieces. And then they're also getting yogurt, which is something they obviously would not get in the wild. They don't get it very often here, but it's something that's very, very yummy, and it helps us to encourage them to climb onto places they might not obviously climb onto on their own. And that way we can see a close-up look at these guys. Callie asks, what do they like to do in the morning? Well, I can tell you they have the best bedhead I've ever seen on an animal. They do usually sleep in a nest box, and they sleep all cuddled up together, our two golden lion tamarins. So in the morning, they usually get up, and then they immediately want breakfast. And then once the exhibits are clean, they come out here and they get to spend the day looking for enrichment items that we placed around the exhibits, taking naps and hanging out with each other. Caitlin asked, what is their diet? So in the wild, they're going to eat a variety of fruits and bugs, and that's exactly what they get here, as well as a few other tasty things to help round out their nutritional requirements. Bugs are definitely their favorite. They love crickets and mealworms, and then their favorite fruit are definitely grapes. And obviously, as you can see, yogurt is always going to be a big hit when they get it. Chantel asks, how big are they? So as you can see, they're very, very small monkeys. Golden lion tamarins average about 2 pounds. Kawari, our female, is a little bit bigger than our male. She weighs about 800 grams, and our male weighs about 700 grams. So you can see they get along really well with the pygmy marmosets that share their exhibit. Juno was born here at the zoo, and he's lived with pygmy marmosets his entire life. It's not a species that they would encounter in the wild, but they do encounter other species of monkeys, and as long as everybody has enough food and enough space, they get along really well. We actually do see interactions between them. We will see grooming between the two different species, which is really special. Grooming in primates is a really important part of their social lifestyle. They need to be able to hang out with each other and groom in order to solidify the bonds that they have. Jake asked, why were they endangered? That's a really great question. So the Atlantic coastal forest where they're found used to be a very large area, but unfortunately due to deforestation, that area is less than 10% of what it used to be. So their home just disappeared, and with that, their numbers. Now there are a lot more protected areas now for the golden lion tamarin than there were 50 years ago, and that's really helped their numbers to bounce back, which is really awesome. Thanks you guys for your questions. These are great. Patrick asks, do they make nests like chimps? So they're not as dexterous as chimps are. They're not really going to take material from other places in order to make those nests. In the wild, what they're going to look for is hollowed out pieces of trees that are a nice safe spot for them to hang out in. So we mimic that by giving them different nest boxes made of wood. We also give them different enrichment items that are small and enclosed, and they do love to sit in those, things like large pipes and such. But they're not going to gather materials like some of those larger primates are. Kai asks, why do they hang upside down with their tail? So what's cool about these monkeys is they don't have a tail that they can grab on, but they do have that really long tail, which is amazing for balance. So even though these guys are very small, they can run pretty fast in the trees, and they can jump pretty long distances. A golden lion tamarin can jump about 10 feet, which is really impressive for such a small animal. What's cool about tamarins and marmosets is that unlike other primate species, they don't have fingernails like we do. They have actual claws, and those claws are very sharp, and so they can climb up and down the trees really, really well. So we sometimes see our primates in here climbing on places that we would never expect or be able to do ourselves, and they just shimmy up and down no problem. Jessica asks, what enrichment do they get? They get a variety of enrichment. As you can see, food is definitely one of their favorite things to get. Who doesn't love some food? They love any sort of enrichment that is problem solving, so they love sticking their fingers into little holes in the wild that would mimic how they would get bugs out of their environment. So we make a lot of different enrichment like these hanging wood pieces that have holes drilled into them that we can put things in. They also love blankets, so they will snuggle on blankets as well. But every day they get a different type of enrichment. Today their enrichment is getting to see a group of people that they don't normally get to see, and obviously getting that delightful yogurt. Sarah asks, do they have a unique skill? Interesting question. They are incredibly loud for such a small animal. Tamarins use their voice to communicate with one another. They have lots of different calls that they can make. Some of it is called a long call, and it's a very, very high-pitched, very loud sound that I can actually hear when I am outside the building. So it does carry over long distances. In the wild, they will have territories. So the mom and dad will patrol those territories, and they'll call back and forth to one another and any adult offspring that they have in order to talk to each other and say, hey, I found some food, or hey, we might need to scare away another group of golden lion tamarins. What are PPE regulations? That's a good question. So normally when we're working with primates, we do usually wear a mask and gloves just because there are a lot of diseases that can transfer between primates and humans. That could be something as simple as the common cold, and especially right now with what's going on, we want to make sure that we are staying really, really safe and that we're able to make sure that our primates are staying really, really safe. So we always wear a glove and a mask when cleaning around these guys, and when putting out enrichment, when feeding them, and when training them. Charles asked, can they swim? That's a good question. No, they can't. It would probably be a very scary thing for these guys to fall into water. They probably would not be able to swim very well. We don't have the opportunity for them to get into any deep water, which is a good thing. But they are very much an up in the tree type of animal, and they stay away from deep bodies of water because that can be a very dangerous place for them to be. Laura asks, how far can they jump? So the golden lion tamarins can jump about 10 feet. What's really funny is Kuwari, our female, is not much of a jumper. Maybe it's because she's a little bit of a bigger girl, but she really would much rather find different ways to climb around the exhibit than to make a jump that any of the other animals can. I've seen some of our pygmy marmosets jump farther than Kuwari does, and that's just her personality. She is very, very shy and very cautious sometimes. I hope you guys are enjoying your time here with the Houston Zoo while our golden lion tamarins and our pygmy marmosets get a delightful treat of yogurt and apples. Shelley asks, what are their names? So we have two golden lion tamarins. Our boy's name is Juno. Our girl's name is Kuwari. Juno was actually born here in the Houston Zoo. They are somewhat easy to tell apart when you've spent enough time around them. Juno is much lighter in color, really bright orange. Kuwari has a much darker face and tail, but you definitely have to spend a little bit hanging out with them in order to see that. Now the pygmy marmosets we also have two of here in the rainforest exhibit. And we have Teak, who is our female. She was born here at the zoo. She is 6 years old. And right in front of us here is Benny. And Benny is actually pretty new to us. He's been here for a couple of years. He will hopefully be a mate for Teak, and he is about 8 years old. Anne asks, how long is their tail? So they do have a really long tail. It is more than the length of their body, and that actually helps them to balance when they're running really fast down all of the branches and vines in the rainforest here at the zoo and in the rainforest out in the wild. In terms of length, you know what, I'm not exactly sure, but it's definitely over a foot long, which is really impressive for such a tiny monkey. Eli asks, what are their predators? So they are very small, and they do have a lot of predators out in the wild that they need to be careful of. Some of their main predators are actually going to be snakes and different birds of prey. So when they're moving about their rainforest home, they need to be able to not only look for food and watch where they're going, but they need to be very good at keeping an eye out for predators. And then when they need to move really, really fast. Cat species will also try to go after a golden lion tamarin and the pygmy marmosets. I want to do a quick shout out to Fall Creek Elementary Kindergarten class. I want to thank you so much for supporting the Houston Zoo. So as you can see, our pygmy marmosets and our golden lion tamarins get along fairly well. They like hanging out with each other. We do see them grooming each other every once in a while, especially on a sunny day. Kuwari and Teak, our two girls, like to hang out and make sure that they don't have any bugs on each other, which is a great bonding experience. Eva and Noah asks, are they carnivores or herbivores? So technically they are neither. They're what's in between. They are an omnivore, which means they'll eat a little bit of veggies and other plants, and they will eat other animals. So they will eat a lot of insects in the wild, but if they can, they will catch things like small lizards. They will eat bird eggs and anything else small that they can find that can be a good meal for them. Jose asks, can they scratch? Yes, so they do have very sharp claws, which is pretty unique to primates. So those claws are really, really good for climbing. They actually act as Velcro, and watching them go up and down some of these trees is really cool. And so we have to be very careful when we are doing anything closer to these animals, like hand feeding them. When we wear gloves, want to make sure that they don't catch a nail in those gloves.
Sydney, how can we help save them in the wild?
You can do a lot to help save them in the wild. When the zoo opens up, you can come join us here at the Houston Zoo, and your membership and your tickets help save animals in the wild. One thing that you can do at home right here and right now is to recycle your paper products and to use paper products that are recycled content. Now, one type of paper product that most people don't really think about is toilet paper. And so here at the Houston Zoo, all of our toilet paper is made out of other recycled paper, which is pretty awesome. Think about how many trees have to be cut down just to make that toilet paper. So just by switching to something that's more recycled in all of our paper products, we can help save these animals in the wild. Now we're wrapping up. Thank you guys so much for all of your questions. They were absolutely fantastic. I want to thank you for supporting the Houston Zoo. If you would like to support us more, you can go to our website at houstonzoo.org and check out our emergency fund page. You can tune in tomorrow for our next Facebook Live video, and we're going to be doing that at 11 a.m. Once again, my name is Sydney. Thank you so much for joining us as we talked about a couple of these amazing endangered species. Have a great day.